Welcome to the short-term show from Blue Ridge, Georgia. We will cover everything you need to know, including buying, holding, managing from a distance, raising rents, renovating, and how to rent it when you are not using your very own vacation home in the North Georgia mountains. For more information on current purchase prices and income data, please visit theshorttermshop.com. Welcome to the Short Term Show special episodes from Blue Ridge. Short Term Show. We are in Blue Ridge, Georgia, a couple of us virtually, and we are going to talk about expenses today. What's it cost to keep a rental property or a vacation home of sorts running in the North Georgia mountains? And we are happy to be here on behalf of the Short Term Shop. I've got Yak, a familiar character in this series, and we have Melody, who has actually purchased a property with the Short Term Shop. She's fantastic, and we are very grateful that she's given us a little bit of her time today to come discuss. As a matter of fact, Melody, I am going to ask you a few questions before we go. Tell us about, I guess, give me a little overview of your real estate journey in general, if you don't mind.
Yeah. So I guess in the pandemic, I wanted to start to invest somewhere. And so I was listening to Bigger Pockets and came across Avery's episode, and that one really stuck out to me. So yeah, reached out to the Short Term Shop and then looked in to a couple of the markets, felt more comfortable with the mountain market, and couldn't get into Smokies by myself. But for Blue Ridge, I really liked this area because I like how it's more geared to the outdoors. And I love spending time outdoors. So I thought that I'd be able to provide a great experience there as a host. So bought my cabin 2 years ago, went over to Blue Ridge, kind of lived there for about 3 months to get to know the area, and then also get to know my neighbors and just feel like I can provide a good experience for the guests. While fixing the cabin up and furnishing it.
Wow. I love that. I love that. Nobody ever talks about that. That's brilliant because you get to know it and feel it and touch it. And I do that myself. I actually just last week or 2 weekends ago, my football team had a night game, and I said, you know what? I'm going to go sleep. We've got a rental that's just 2-3 miles down the road. And I said, I'm going to go sleep down there tonight because kids were already, going to bed anyway. And I just wanted to, see what it was like as a guest, were there noises? And there were noises. And I found that there was 3 doorknobs to the balcony. I wouldn't really call it a balcony, but for lack of a better way to put it on this property, they were all just janky and just a mess. And we had a brand new hardware store right up the road, New Ace Hardware, which is where I live. This is a tiny little vacation town, so that was a big deal. And I said, I can't wait to get up to that Ace Hardware. So I went and bought some new doorknobs and swapped them out and found these weird sounds and fixed them. And then I also noticed that the dishwasher was not attached to the countertop, and so I fixed that. And just little stuff. So you were there for 3 months and had no familiarity with the market at all, it sounds like. So I would assume you felt that was you got a lot accomplished in that 3 months.
Yeah, I for sure did. Got to really have a very hands-on experience in curating what my cabin looked like. And because it was when I bought the cabin, it wasn't really turnkey. The furniture was very kitschy. It didn't have a hot tub, no deck. So made sure those went in. And yeah, I really got to build my team there as well. So found my cleaner there, went through a lot of interviews, and my neighbors are also very helpful as well. They step in whenever I need some small things. So yeah, just the community is really helpful out there.
Okay, wonderful. And I would assume you were working remote at the time. Is that how that was facilitated?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Like to have you on my podcast sometime. But which, by the way, I'll plug that while I'm at it. Short-term rental management. Every Tuesday morning, we talk about landlording and vacation rental management in general. So today we're here to talk about, which I have a feeling, Melody, I'm going to ask you more questions about your journey in general, but let's stick to the topic at least for a minute, which today is expenses. Expenses. So my thing there is a lot of times, especially if you're brand new, your expenses can kind of be similar to a primary home in my experience, right? So because it does sort of function just as a primary, people are living in it basically. And as far as the electric bill and the water bill, et cetera, which we may not even have water bills in certain areas of Blue Ridge, but it may even be a little less at times of the year. If people are moving in and out, maybe you got a few days off, your electric bill could go down a little bit. Now, of course, in the heat, in the high heat of summer, man, they crank that air conditioner, they work it hard. And then in the cold of winter, they do the same. They'll leave doors hanging open because they just, they're on vacation. I don't think that folks do this kind of thing, maliciously, like, oh, it's a rental, I'm going to leave the door open. I just think they don't think of it. They're half drunk, they're having fun, they're on vacation. And so that kind of stuff does happen. And if you've got propane going on for heat or, whatever that may be. So let's talk about that in general. Yak, how many properties, let me ask you about the wells. Like, how many properties are going to be well versus city water, give or take?
I say probably 98% of them are going to be on some sort of well, community shared or private. There are a few, if you're not too far from one of the highways, there's a chance you may have county water. County water is getting, more prevalent, but still, pretty rare at that. I would say advantages and disadvantages of that. People think well water and they automatically think, oh, it's very ferric, a lot of iron, smells like onions. If you ever lived in the country in the Southeast, that well water cannot be very pleasant. With that being said, our well water here is really nice. Runs through a lot of hard rock, a lot of bedrock. Doesn't really smell. Yes, it's filtered. You're going to have a filtration system on the house with removable, replaceable filters. But again, the pros of well water versus county water, I would say, is you're going to have a little more reliability with the county water, but it doesn't taste as good. I'll be honest with you. I think our well water tastes a little bit better, and it's going to be cheaper.
Mm. Yeah, so almost most likely you're going to be on a well.
Absolutely.
So let's talk about that. Let's get into a little bit of detail there. First thing I want to say about wells, having quite a bit of experience with them, they are all different, right? Every one of them has its own personality. They're different depths. They have different minerals within that hole in the ground than the guy next door and his hole in the ground, So, and then also filters. Yak mentioned filters. There are several filters to be aware of when it comes to a well. There's going to be these large, basically look like a water softener, really, or honestly, they look like a helium tank at the grocery store when you're filling up your kids' balloons. Go ahead, Yak.
Right.
Yeah. And so they have different layers to them, and they can actually change those layers based on the type of water quality you're getting. If there's a certain smell, they can change a certain section of that filter, et cetera. And those filters are generally, I don't know, they're going to run you, I'm just making numbers up right now, but last time I bought one of those big filters, somewhere around maybe $2,000, $2,500, and they do have a lifespan of somewhere about like any appliance, basically like a water heater, even about 10 to maybe you could probably even occasionally push them to 20 years. But you may end up needing two of these, it depends on what kind of water you got. Yak mentioned smells. And if you've got, that would be sulfur, right? That's coming out of the ground is again, it's a mineral and it smells like onions or eggs. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of gross. It's really, in my opinion, as far as renting a piece of real estate is concerned, the sulfur is the worst one. And then it trickles down because it's gross. And then it doesn't hurt you though. It doesn't hurt you. It just smells bad. And then it trickles down to iron is very common, which is going to turn your water a little bit red, which again is easy to filter out with the proper water guy and the water system. And then hard water. A lot of times, if you put a water softener in the house, it will clear up some of these problems. If depending on how bad they are, you can occasionally. Again, I'm no expert here, but you can occasionally clear up a sulfur issue with a water softener. Make sure it's filled with salt. I had one time. Man, this thing ate salt like crazy. We were over there filling that thing up every 3 weeks, and it was because of sulfur, but it was taking care of the problem. So we just, salt's inexpensive. Really, the biggest problem there is just taking it over and filling it. We put it on a schedule, and that's how we handled it. And then, of course, it trickles down to there's these smaller paper filters that a lot of folks will have, which they call those a little whole house filter, and it's a kind of
looks like a pool filter.
Looks like a pool filter, and they suck, to be honest. But if you keep them swapped out, every house is going to be different. One house is going to need it every 2 weeks. One house is going to need it every 6 months. And somewhere
I'll tell you, Luke. In Blue Ridge, I think we've been blessed with our water. A lot of these water nightmares sound a little scary, but fortunately for us, we really don't have a lot of those issues that you're speaking of. And a lot of times it is just that paper filter getting replaced every 90 days or so. I think they're about $100 a filter. You probably get a knockoff on Amazon for probably, half that. But for the most part, you have your handyman replace that filter every 90 days and you should be good to go.
Okay, great. That's good news. So in a lot of cases, we can probably knock off those prices that I was mentioning because you got some good water in the area. That's cool. And Melody, what's your experience been with your water? How good is it?
I'd say it's pretty good. So mine is the community water system because I'm in Cherry Log. So it's Citizen Utilities, and it's a flat fee every month, no matter how much we use. So $37 a month. And that's really helpful because for hot tub cleaning, they do drain the hot tub some of the time. So that's a lot of water to have to refill. So that flat fee is pretty nice.
How many houses are on it? Is the whole HOA?
Yeah. So all of Cherry Lake, basically I'm not going to say all of Cherry Log, but all of Cherry Lake and Hidden Lake, 2 communities within Cherry Log, the 2 biggest communities, they're all on the same system. And the Sissons is one of the local families who they're kind of the Rockefellers or Vanderbilts of Cherry Log, and they own a lot of the infrastructure and they run it management. And they do a lot of the roads, a lot of the cabins. They built them there themselves. But I would say it's a lot, several hundred, I would guess.
And so you pay an HOA fee, yes?
Yeah.
Okay. And they basically take care of the water. It's almost like a beach house.
Yeah, I guess.
Okay.
A beach house.
So, right. Yeah. It's nothing like a beach house, but the water system. So in other words, if the well pumps go out or there's a filter issue, then the HOA takes care of that.
Yeah. Only time is if your pipes burst at your own house, then you got to take care of that. But They do help they'll tell you that it's burst. So you should try to find it beforehand. But,
right. Yeah.
And speaking of, Melody, it was 25 degrees this morning. So
nice.
Not to scare you. I'm sure in sunny California, it's a little bit different. But Luke, you're speaking of the HOA. I just wanted to add, to a lot of people in Florida, HOA is I know it's 3 letters, but it's viewed as a 4-letter word. You know what I mean? Like it's a nasty little word. But to be honest with you, for somebody like Melody and, the vast majority of investors here in Blue Ridge, it's a good thing to have. These are, it's used as a pass the hat to manage the roads, to manage the wells. It gives, other eyeballs on all this infrastructure that you remotely can't necessarily have. So, if a tree falls down in the road, somebody else is going to take care of it. It's not necessarily going to be on you. If there's an issue with the well, there's going to be plenty of people barking at it and looking to fix it where you're in, let's just say you live in California, you may not have access to that information quickly enough. So to be honest with you, an HOA here in Blue Ridge is a pretty good thing to have.
Are HOAs more common than not, or,
Yeah, I think so. Absolutely. I think they are, I don't want to put a number on it, but I would say it's significantly more common to have something within an HOA. And again, they really exist. The only reason, they have some architectural control. They want to make sure nobody's going to paint their cabin purple, and nobody's going to put up a trailer hood next to you. But on the same token, they're really just there to manage the roads and manage the wells. And that's a good thing to have if you're, looking to get into this business.
Let me call my painter and tell him that purple was a bad idea. Then I was just about to get that done. But anyway, so okay, how much is well, hold on. Let's wrap up this water thing. So what you're saying is, and I don't want to say that there's not going to be any water costs of any kind at any of these properties, but what you're saying is, for the most part, that might be true.
Going to be low. I mean, she's paying $37 a month, and I'd say in a lot of cases that's probably going to be average. Maybe 30 to 50 bucks a month for water, depending on your situation and how they divvy that out. There's going to be some instances where it's totally just wrapped into your HOA fee. You may pay $900 a year, and that may include water and road maintenance. So you just never know, but it's never going to be something that's going to be overwhelming.
So Melody, you're paying $37 specifically for water?
Yeah, my HOA is $25 a month.
And then $37 on top of that for the water?
Yeah.
Regardless of usage?
Yeah.
Okay, so you could dump and fill the hot tub 127 times and it's still $37.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, well, interesting. Speaking of HOAs, they seem to be a little bit more common than not. She just described, okay, hold on, let me back up, Melody, one more time. Let me write that down. 37 for water, 25 for HOA. Any other fees from the HOA?
No.
Oh my goodness, that is dirt cheap. All right,
Yeah.
I don't want to get anybody too excited. I'm sure there's other places that are not like this, but can you give me a rundown? Are there other HOAs that are going to be more expensive or that kind of thing?
I would say that's probably kind of the norm. Yeah, there can be some that are more expensive. There's a massive subdivision in Ellijay called the Kusawati, and that one's about $900 a year. And then you're going to have expenses on, normal expenses on top of that. There is community water in there, but I would say for, an HOA that's on a well system, this is going to be, I would say, 50 to 60 bucks a month for your water and HOA can be, fairly normal. I'd say right in the middle.
Interesting. Okay. So very good chance that if I buy one of these things, my water and my HOA is going to be pretty similar to what we've just discussed.
Pretty close.
Okay, cool. What about electric? Melody, just give me, what is an average electric bill and how big is your property?
So my property it's a 3-bed, 2-bath, 900 square foot cabin. So it's on the smaller side of a 3-bed, 2-bath. But for electricity, on average throughout the year is $170 a month. In the winter, when it's high occupancy, like November to January, it's around $200 to $250. And then February to October is $150 a month.
Yeah. How many square feet?
900.
Oh, 900 small. So I would say that that's pretty similar to what a 900 square foot of primary home would cost in any average Joe area. Jac, you have any other information on electric bills for us?
I would say they're gonna vary widely, right? Also, what is gas in your house? I can't remember on Melody's, what is gas and what is electric. A lot of the newer properties now are going to have a lot more electric systems in there, meaning, stove and heat, versus a lot of the older ones are still, use gas simply because it's easier to construct homes, with as much electrical as possible. A lot of times, from the gas, the only things in some of these newer homes are kind of vanity things like the logs in the fireplace. That may be it. And so, but back to the electrical conversation, that's going to vary widely on your house. So let's just say you have, a big house that's hanging out over the edge of the mountain that just gets hammered with sunlight. That's going to be a little bit different than, a cabin that's kind of in the woods in cherry log, so your sun exposure is going to have a significant impact on that as well.
Yeah. So for context, my cabin is in the trees. So not a lot of sun exposure. I do have a hot tub and my HVAC system is full electric. I do have a gas wall heater, like a small one. So that's the backup when it gets below freezing.
Because your unit can't keep up?
Yeah. So for a full electric with an electric heat pump, the heat pumps lose efficiency when it gets below freezing. So the wall heater is strong enough to heat up my small cabin when it gets that cold. So I guess my gas or my electricity bill isn't too high.
Is it uncommon to get below freezing, Jac?
No, it's not uncommon, but we don't, no different than the Smokies, no different than I would say Gatlinburg. We just got our first real significant cold front come through last night. Like I said, it was in the 20s. It'll be that for the next few days, and then it'll be, the lows will be in the upper 30s again. So, we do get below freezing, but not a ton. But absolutely, I wouldn't call it rare by any stretch.
And do a lot of these properties have the heater, the wall heat, the supplemental heat?
No, I don't see that a lot. Again, with an older cab, something built probably in the 90s, maybe so early 2000s, you see them, but they're really phased out. Like Melody said, the heat pumps, which are great to have for air conditioning, they tend to be a more efficient product and are easier on the utility bills. But they do, when it gets below freezing, they do kind of struggle, and sometimes some auxiliary heat is needed, and luckily she has that.
Yeah, it's the auxiliary heat that's going to cost you. There's basically heat strips in the unit, which it basically turns it into almost like a space heater, like what she was talking about. And that's when the bill can really go through the roof, and it struggles hard to keep up. But again, this, if you're from the north, this sounds crazy, but in the south, this is the way it is.
I would tell people, with the space heater, Luke, one of the keys here is don't play the game of, okay, nobody's in the cabin, so I can cut the heater, cut it way down low. Sometimes for them to catch up cost you more than it does to just kind of keep it in stasis. Mm-hmm. So, if you do have a heat pump, I highly recommend, maybe a 2 or 3 degrees, you can drop it, below, comfort level. But don't just cut it off while nobody's there, because trying to get it to catch back up can sometimes cost you, more money than just leaving it where it was.
Yes, I'd like to further expand on that, because I'm completely obsessed with HVAC. And so I agree. Now, if the property is going to be empty for a long time, I would go ahead and cut it down to 45, maybe 50 probably is a good number, because that way, if you got pipes, you're worried about freezing. You don't want it to get crazy cold. But what Yak's talking about is when you've got a heat pump, if you try to raise the heat on the thermostat more than, I think it's 4 degrees higher than what it is in the room, that emergency heat kicks in, and it costs you a lot. And if you're trying to go 25 degrees at one time, that emergency heat's going to stay on until you get within 3 degrees. So you're going to have emergency heat on and cranking while the heat pump's going on at the same time. I mean, for a few hours, and that can be extremely costly. The way around that is if you got it empty for a long time, which I hope that doesn't happen. That's probably not going to happen. I'm just saying maybe it's a vacation home that you don't even rent. Who knows? Just getting way in the weeds. Just bump it three at a time. And then that way the emergency heat never kicks on. But that's a giant pain in the ass. And quite frankly, you kind of need to be there. Otherwise, you're going to forget. And then, it takes forever. But it's an excellent point. We're way in the weeds now. But all right, let's move on. What about internet? What kind of internet do you have at your place, Melody?
I don't know what kind it is, but I know the company that I use is ETC, LJ Telephone Company. And it's $80 a month usually, $50 a month for the first 12 months. So you get a discount for the first year. I don't have any cable. No cable.
And it's regular old, it's piped into the house.
It's terrestrial. She's got terrestrial internet there in Cherry Log. She's got 2 options. It's going to be ETC and TDS. She's lucky. She may not know how lucky she is, but ETC is the best service in the area, and they are the fastest. And I don't know if she would consider it super fast. I'd be curious to know what your speeds are, but for the most part, everybody's going to be serviced. I'd say again, 95% of the houses are going to be able to be serviced by either ETC or TDS, which are both terrestrial based services.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't remember my exact speeds, but I was working from home there doing video calls and also watching Netflix. So I was able to do that very smoothly.
Did they give you a choice of speeds?
Yes.
Okay. And so you went with the $80 package, whatever that may be. Typical internet for just any, sounds like what most people would deal with in any house for the most part. Do we run into situations where we can't get internet?
Yeah, that certainly can happen. Again, during COVID, a lot of these, TDS, for example, was one of the few, or if not the only terrestrial service in a lot of these areas. And all of a sudden, everybody started working from home. Everybody started homeschooling. So now you have a substation that was powering 20 homes. Now it's powering 80 homes, and the speeds got super, super slow. So that is something you have to be careful for if you get too remote. Yes, there are some instances. Elon Musk's product, what is Starlink, is starting to become available. A lot of people are starting to get those, but that has to do, I think, what's that, about $100 a month, $500 for the hardware. That's becoming more of an option. There are some people, if you're close enough to a cell tower, that are, using like the Verizon or, like T-Mobile hotspots and things like that. But I would say it's 1% of the cabins that don't have a good option, to be honest with you.
Okay, cool. Very, very few then. All right. What about gas? We mentioned gas a little bit. So Melody, do you have any gas at all in your home? And if so, what is it powering?
Yeah. It's powering the grill and the wall heater.
That's it.
Yeah.
And it's a natural gas or a propane tank?
It's a propane tank. It is one that I own. So you just choose whichever company to fill it for you. I chose Folger before when I first had it filled. I haven't had a refill ever since I bought the house, or ever since I found out that my HVAC unit was very inefficient. So after I switched out my HVAC unit, then I haven't had to refill.
Oh, let's talk about that. We're again way in the weeds. What happened with the HVAC? What, it was just old?
Yeah, it was old. It was nearing the end of its life. It was 2000, built in 2002, and 20 to 25 year lifespan. I thought I would be able to just run with it. But when I bought the cabin, the first 2 months that I paid the gas bill, it was in the winter, luckily, when I found this out. It was $400 each month. So I wasn't down to pay $400 a month for gas.
So wait, the old unit was propane?
Yeah, it's propane.
The old heater?
Yes.
Okay. And so the new one is now full electric?
Yeah.
Ah, now it makes perfect sense. And then you subsidize with the wall heater, which is propane.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. So a lot of times propane it's definitely more efficient and quicker. Electric heat, it takes a while. Propane heat, you turn that thing on and it's boom, it's going. But you could use a lot of propane if it's really, really cold outside. So there's benefits and disadvantages and advantages to both of those things. So, okay, cool. So, and I personally, I'm going to say 10 to 15 on an HVAC. That's just me. And if I'm buying a house with a 15-year-old HVAC, I'm probably going to swap it out. But it depends on where you're at in your career, because that's not cheap. How much did you pay for your new unit?
$6,000.
That's a lot of dough. Yeah.
It was unexpected too.
Bologna sandwiches, Yak.
Yep.
Okay. Yak, what else there on the gas? Every house going to have gas or not?
Most of them, again, are going to have some form of gas, like she said. Now, some of them will not. The newer homes, I would say anything built in the past 10 years, going to have very little gas. It's going to be kind of vanity stuff. Like I said, like gas logs, which really aren't spitting out a lot of heat. I've even seen like exterior lights on a house be gas powered lights, like these little propane or powered chandeliers and things like that on some of the really high end houses. But you chances are you're going to have a tank, and you may have to rent it, lease it, or you may own it. Melody opted to buy her own. To lease them is not that expensive. It can be $10 to $25 a month. Usually somewhere in the middle, about $15 a month. And again, you'll lease it from the company that is giving you the gas service. In Blue Ridge, we've got tons of it. Folgers, Freeman, she went with Folger, great company. And they even have the autofill. They a lot of them have like a remote system where they can drive by, and they have sensors on their trucks, and and basically what they'll do, if you get below 20% on your tank, they'll fill it back up to 80%. So without asking you. Which, what I tell Luke, and you can probably back me up on this. I tell people it's a great insurance policy. The last thing you want is people showing up in December and not having hot water.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah, 100%. Okay, so to reiterate, you were paying $400 a month when you had propane heat on a really old propane heater, which, by the way, you mentioned 20 to 25 years. They do say that the gas pack heat units, they do last longer than just a regular old HVAC. So, yeah, that might be true there. But anyway, since you've switched to electric heat, your gas bill is how much? Or how much? Let me ask you this: how much is it to fill the whole tank? How many gallons is it?
I don't know. It's a pretty big one.
Okay, so probably 500, maybe a 250, but and to fill that tank costs you how much? Or are they just topping it off?
They're just filling it to 80%.
Okay.
I don't remember whether or not it went all the way to 20% when I had them filled those 2 times, but each time I filled it was $400.
Okay. But since that has happened, you haven't had to fill it again.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. If you're just running a couple of little things in the house, it's probably going to last like a whole year. So maybe $350, $400 a year. We'll throw that out there. Does that sound about right?
It's been about 2 years. I haven't filled it.
2 years. Okay. Yeah.
It's barely moved.
Okay. All right, cool. So keep in mind, it's going to be propane. Let's talk about maintenance, handyman stuff, landscaping, just typical day-to-day. What are you dealing with there, Melody?
So maintenance?
Yeah, like how often you got to get a handyman out there? Do you have any stories about a handyman? Whatever you have for me.
So I don't have to get a handyman out there that often. I would say it was more in the beginning when I was getting my cabin more like winter ready. But yeah, he just comes every now and then for like leaf blowing, weed whacking, gutter cleaning, stuff like that. Or any like repairs for any guest damage. But yeah, other things to consider for maintenance, chimney sweeping, cabin staining, and also removing branches that are over your house because it can get windy and you don't want that to ruin your property. Yeah, so it comes out to like on average 150 a month. So yeah, this is like maintenance on the house, and then also if the guest damaged anything.
I like that. So in other words, spreadsheet wise, if you're just doing analysis on a property you haven't purchased yet, small home, $150 a month. I think that's probably pretty reasonable. Snow removal. Do we have any of that, Yak?
Not really. I mean, we'll get snow probably, 6 to 10 days out of the year. Probably only 2 to 3 of those will be significant enough to cause any road issues. But again, if you're on a HOA, a lot of times there's going to be enough traffic and, people that care to kind of take care of some of that. I know where Melody is. A lot of times, they'll just shut down the roads. To be honest with you, I hate to say it, but they'll just shut down the roads and say, hey, this is a little too, a little too dangerous. And then it's going to be you as a host to kind of play some PR there with your guest and kind of smooth that over. Obviously a different conversation, but snow is, it's something you probably have to deal with maybe once or twice a year of any significance.
Is it safe to say if it does snow, there's a pretty good chance your guests are going to end up canceling?
I haven't really had experience with guests canceling because of snow.
Okay. That's what I would do personally. And again, I don't have a property in this market, but I do have mountain in this area properties. And if it snows, I'm just like, hey, you're probably better off just canceling. I'll give you a full refund. Now, again, we're getting into the nuts and bolts of management and landlording, and everybody's going to have a different way of doing that. And there's no right or wrong answer. But just my policy and my company is if it snows, I'm sending a message saying, hey, it snowed. Feel free to cancel. We'll give you your money back. Again, it's got to be pretty bad. That's a very rare. We're talking maybe once a year for a couple of days, if that, so.
That's it. And, if the beauty, and again, not to get into the weeds here, but if you've got a neighborhood and a lot of people don't like a gravel road, a lot of times a gravel road can be a godsend for when it's snowing. You got new asphalt, and Cherry Log has some new asphalt right now. And I can tell you it will get slick as when, there is some melting snow and then, some of those temperatures back down in the 20s and that new asphalt gets slicked over. It may be that way for, some time. So again, I appreciate a gravel road every now and then in a subdivision, because it can definitely kind of curtail some of that, treacherous road, off-roading experience as opposed to asphalt when it does snow.
Okay, cool. What about landscaping?
I just have my guy do leaf blowing and weed whacking.
No grass per se here, Yaka. Not really any grass to deal with.
No, and you know what? I've always kind of told my people that, if somebody wants something with the yard, hey, during the growing season, man, you're going to have somebody out there every, 8 to 10 days to take care of this, or it's going to, look unkempt. And for the most part, I would say, exactly what Melody says is, picking up deadfall, that's always going to be a challenge. Trimming some bushes, and maybe, spraying, to get rid of some weeds around the corners of the house and around fence posts and stuff like that. But for the most part, I would say, in terms of getting a lawn crew out there, I would say that's not going to be the norm. For most people, it's just going to be kind of deadfall, weed whacking, that type stuff that she was saying.
All right. What about stain? Are these are, cabins primarily? Is it a situation where I need to get that washed and stained periodically?
Yeah. Again, this is one that kind of depends, much like on your electricity bills, has the sun exposure has a huge impact on, how much stain you're going to need and how often you're going to need it restained. If you've got one of these houses that's got you've got 180-degree view, long range mountain view, that side of the house is getting absolutely hammered with sun, probably 12 hours a day. And you may need to restain that. And especially some of the, that 1x, fascia board and things like that. You may have to replace and restain that stuff every 4 to 6 years. Now, if you have a cabin that's, a nice cabin in the woods, kind of like what Melody has, that may be something you only, depending on the quality of stain, you may only have to do that every 10 years or so. Pressure wash as needed. I tell people, be kind of cautious because a lot of times you can do more damage than good with pressure washing. But yeah, it kind of depends on your situation. I'd say anywhere between 5 and 10 years, you're going to have to kind of take a step back and reevaluate the staining situation.
Mm-hmm. It's no different than painting a regular old house, really.
Exactly right.
And it's going to be based on square footage. The bigger your house, the more it's going to cost. Simple as that. And those prices are changing all the time. So I don't know if we need to get in the weeds on that. Yak, you heard any numbers on 2,000 square foot house getting stained anytime recently, or?
My guess would be somewhere around $7,000, depending on the deck and how elaborate everything is. The last one I had stained, but this was pre-COVID, was half that, was $3,500. So, again, it just all depends on kind of how elaborate the cabin is. Sometimes they'll charge you different fees based on, do they need to get scaffolding up? Depending on, a lot of just structural issues, not necessarily issues, but just, the structure of the house can vary that price significantly.
Right. Of course, Melody's house, 900 square foot, that's going to be quite a bit less expensive, but I think that $7,000 number for a medium sized house, medium to large house is probably somewhere in the wheelhouse at the recording of this podcast. All right, let's slide into cleaners. I guess, Melody, how much, I know how much your cleaner's charging you, and it's, again, a small house. Does it have 1 bedroom, 2 bedrooms?
3 bedrooms.
3 bedrooms. Okay. 3 bedrooms. And what are they charging you to clean it? Yeah.
So mine is a 3-bed, 2-bath, 900 square foot on a single level. That makes a difference. So it's $125 a clean for me. And I'm restocking for consumables and linens. So for her services, that includes on-site laundry, hot tub, cleaning the grill, leaf blowing the deck and the fire pit, and trash removal, and then also pets. She doesn't charge an extra for that. But I did do a lot of interviews because I had one cleaner not be able to clean within a day of hiring her. So the range that I've seen is about $120 to $200 for a cabin my size. And there are cleaners who charge extra for pets or removing trash, and also for restocking.
3 beds with, and you're pet friendly. And how much is it again?
$125.
Oh, that's extremely inexpensive. My goodness. Now, if you were to shop around for somebody today, do you think it'd be a little more than that?
I have found other cleaners that are around that price. Yeah. So, I mean, there are definitely a lot of cleaners that seem a lot more experienced, like they have their own team that charge a lot more.
Pet friendly by choice, I would assume. You like doing the pet friendly?
Yes, definitely.
Okay. Yak, any more insight as to how much a cleaning fee might be?
I would say typically she's on the low end of that. I would say typically, add, for a standard 3 bedroom, it could easily be $50 more. Probably closer to 175. Now, I will also say, Luke, and, this was a conversation we had early on. This is the benefits of Melody staying in that cabin for 3 months when she first bought it. She's able to kind of go through and do some of these processes and interview these people and, spend the time to do it, while kind of, living amongst them, if you will. So, again, great job by her and the benefits of, being able to do that and staying there.
Yeah. You feel like you have a better relationship with your cleaner because you've, met her in real life and all that?
Yeah, for sure. She was, it was great having actually meeting these people in person and seeing if you have that rapport with them, and seeing just how they work. Are they on time? Or do they seem like they have good integrity and stuff like that? Yeah. I
agree. No, the reason we bring this up is because most folks, if you're completely unfamiliar with this process here, most folks don't meet their cleaners. They may not even see their property for a number of months or even years at some periods of time. But I would say the majority of folks that are doing this probably don't meet their cleaner. And if they do, it's quite a ways down the road when, maybe a year or two into it. And I think that that's totally fine. It's the norm. But I do agree that there is a benefit of looking somebody in the eye and getting a vibe,
Yeah.
I had a guy, I always tell a story. I had a guy, there's two guys. They were they were floor guys. And the one guy, I met him in real life before I ever hired him. And we got along wonderfully. And we, he texted, the rapport was great. And then his buddy who was helping, it was a partnership there. They ended up doing, 10 jobs for me, probably larger jobs. And the other guy and I, we just did not get along on the phone at all. For whatever reason. And then eventually it was 2 or 3 years later, I finally met him in real life. And I was like, oh, I get it now. It's okay, this is just how this guy is, and then you get along better after that. It's just something about looking somebody in the eye. But again, the reason we bring it up is because it's fairly uncommon in this business.
Yeah.
Now, the 125 includes your hot tub too?
Yes.
Oh my.
Yes. Yeah.
All right. Well,
but not the chemicals and stuff, right? You're still purchasing all the consumables yourself, correct?
I know she has maybe testing strips, some balancing stuff, maybe. Yeah.
Okay, so you're shipping her bromine and you're shipping her paper towels?
Not bromine, paper towels, yes.
Oh, okay. So if I wanted, could you call her and say, hey, for an extra $25, will you handle all the paper towels and toilet paper and et cetera? I would do that.
Yeah, she could.
Okay. Because I just got so sick of shipping all that stuff. It was nonstop. Luke, I need this. Luke, I need this. And I'm like, oh,
Yeah, I should probably look into that too.
But again, one more reason why you're probably at the lower end of the cleaning fee spectrum right now. Okay, cool. What else? I think we firewood maybe. Is that common? Are there wood burning fireplaces?
There can be. I tell everybody, discussing whether you're using gas logs or real wood. It's about talking politics. Some people are just on one side of one side of the fence or the other. Some people are just like, hey man, people are coming to a cabin in Blue Ridge, Georgia. By God, they want to burn a log. You know what I mean? That's part of it. That's part of the cabin experience is stoking a fire. And there are some people that are just like, I am not going to let somebody I don't know start a fire in my cabin. And then the other group says, well, it's why I pay insurance, So it's, I'll say this. It's fairly common, especially for people that have a game day porch. And when I say game day porch, at least that's what we call them here, is the fireplace outside on the deck. There'd be a fireplace inside and a fireplace outside. A lot of times on the game day fireplace, it will be a wood burning fireplace. Very common to provide the wood there. But again, I would say probably if we were to ride around Blue Ridge and look at 10 different fireplaces, I would say maybe only one of them is going to be wood burning.
Okay. And any idea what it costs to have some wood delivered? I really have no idea.
It's getting more and more expensive, but I would say, and I don't even know, because I've seen a cord of wood impress me, and I've seen a cord of wood not impress me, because nobody really knows, what a cord of wood is. Yeah. It's kind of like a league in the sea. So I'd seen somebody was charging about $250 to get a cord of wood shipped. Yeah. And I think that's pretty fair considering the labor that gets involved in that. But sometimes it can be more, and your mileage may vary on what a cord of wood is. I'll preface this conversation with that as well.
Well, and I'm just going to say I'm out. I'm a guy that's I've been in this business a long time now, and I've been through, I don't even really like bringing it up, to be honest, but a couple of fires, and it is horrible, horrible, horrible. So I'm all anti-fire, period. I don't have grills. I do have grills at my cabins, but they're cemented in the ground X amount of feet from the structure. They can't move them. I went grill free on my beach properties. And again, there's a lot of different ways to landlord, but once you've been through that F word, there's nothing worse. There's just nothing worse. So I'm all out on the fireplace. I've converted all mine to electric, and I feel that there's very little room for error with those. I mean, sure. Not a lot of things that could go wrong with an electric, electric log. So that's the way I roll. But anyway, what else? I think we covered, we've taken quite a bit of Melody's time here. She's absolutely wonderful. Anything else you guys want to say on the way out? I
would add, like to add, Dale, about the cleaners, in the handyman. And I know it's not necessarily an expense, but it can be an expense. If you need that person, hey, I've got a new Keurig machine. The Keurig machine broke. I need to, can you install it? Or, hey, I got a new arcade. A lot of times if your handyman can't do it, sometimes your cleaner, maybe their son-in-law, or they've got a cousin, or they got a niece or a nephew that wants to pick up an extra, $30-$50. Be good friends with your cleaners, take care of them. And that's another, part of your team. If you need an arcade installed, say, hey, do you have a nephew? If I ship this to him, can I pay him an extra $100 to take it over to the cabin and set it up for me? Some of these arcades in a box or anything like that, a Keurig machine, whatever that may be. Hey, if I ship it to him, can I pay him, $25-$50 to put it in the cabin? And a lot of times they'll be like, yeah, rock on, so, consider that.
Yes, and I do also want to mention that we are being vague on purpose today. We don't want anybody to happen to listen to this and say, well, the short-term shop told me my electric bill would be $150. You got to do your due diligence here, folks. Do your due diligence, and a lot of that stuff's going to change anyway based on usage, and it says almost every single thing we talked about today is a variable, right? So,
and Luke, one thing in these cabins, and you can back me up on this, true log versus a frame built cabin, they got different, I don't know what you want to call it, efficiencies. A true log cabin, tends to be a pretty good insulator, but they cost more to insure. Mm-hmm. So it kind of offsets. I don't know what that offset is, to be honest with you. Every situation's a little bit different, but if you've got a true log cabin, typically those are better insulated houses. Also, the newer the cabin, the better insulated it is. Those costs may vary. You heard what Tay said versus having a gas, a gas furnace versus having a heat pump right now. These more modern technologies, you tend to pay more for them up front, but they certainly are more efficient and, run better, are cleaner, quieter, and are a better product for you down the road. So to your point, there is a ton of variability in here.
All right. What did we miss? Anything? Melody? Well, he called you Tay. I was.
That's my last name.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I put everybody in my Rolodex by their last name.
Yeah. I was like, what am I missing here? You guys know each other better than me. But anyway, go ahead.
I guess some other things I heard on the other episodes of this, or other episodes of different markets. You all covered taxes as well.
Oh, taxes.
Yeah, I forget if that's property or the sales and use or hotel.
No, I love it. Let's cover all that. How much is your property tax, Melody?
All right, so mine is $150 a month.
Oh, a month. Okay. I was
what? I wish it was a year.
Wait a minute. Hold on. What's the math on that? That's 1,600 a year, 1,600 something. 150 times 12 is 1,800. There you go. 1,800. All right. $1,800. That's dirt cheap. Yak, is that just how it is there?
Well, yeah, for when she bought it, I'm sure there's probably going to be a reevaluation. I'll probably go up some on average. I would say for a $500,000 cabin, don't quote me on this, but you're going to be looking around $2,000 to $2,200 a month or a year, $2,000 to $2,200 for about a $500,000 purchase is going to be probably, I would say, average.
I love the South. I do. I love the South.
Well, our governor, fortunately not to get political, but when COVID hit, he kind of made a vow not, on a lot of these taxes to kind of keep everything kind of low. And they've kind of stayed that way. Now there have been some reevaluations. I will be perfectly honest with you. There have been some properties that their taxes haven't been reevaluated in 7-8 years. And they did get a new tax bill, and it went from, these are people, they bought a cabin for $375,000 in 2018, and now it's worth $800,000. And, their tax bills have changed. Mm-hmm. Okay.
And and insurance, we didn't cover that either. Melody, what's the insurance on your property right now? And of course, that's changing very rapidly.
Yeah, mine is $185 a month with Tower Hill. I was on Proper when I first bought it, and it was about $50 more a month.
So about $2,200. Again, you have a smaller house, but about $2,200 for your insurance. Okay. And then we mentioned, monthly taxes is right. Hospitality taxes, et cetera, that kind of thing. If either one of you can give a brief rundown. Again, we're not offering any kind of tax advice here, but just what are you looking at?
So what I pay to the state is 7% for sales and use. And then for Gilmer County, the hotel motel is 8%. And then I just Googled Fannin yesterday too, and it was 7% as of August. But I think maybe y'all can speak to that.
I think that's right. Yeah. I think that's right.
I would. Yeah, I think you did your homework.
Yeah, and Gilmer, where she is, by the way, you can be taxed based off of a rough estimation of the contents of your property.
Right. And that's like an annual thing, right? And you can kind of guesstimate it basically.
That's it. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and again, you do want to check with the county on the taxes that you're going to be paying on a regular basis. And what she's talking about here with these taxes is a percentage of rents. Mm-hmm. So she's paying the X percentage of rents for this tax, that tax. We do cover that, by the way, in Management Monday. The short-term shop is not going to tell you how to pay your taxes or how to do taxes. It's not our level of expertise, but we do cover the tax situation a little bit in Management Monday, which is, of course, I teach that class every Monday. If you end up buying a house with the short-term shop, I'm giving another plug for Management Monday. It's free, by the way. It's on the house, and just a value add for choosing the shop to help you with your purchase. Cool. Anything else?
No, that's all for me.
All right. Well, Melody, thank you so much for your time. You're absolutely wonderful. And Yak, I'll see you on the next episode from Blue Ridge, the short-term show. Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you.